All right, y'all. We back with another video. I'm gonna start us off with a prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for another day on this earth, dear Lord. Thank you for walking us through this journey with you, Lord. Watch over the person on the other side of this video, Lord. Watch over them, Lord. Help draw nearer to them, Lord. Help me to speak through you. Me to speak through you, dear Lord. Thank you for everything, dear Lord. Amen. Today I want to talk about my circle or your circle. And what I mean by that is your friend group, the people that you consider dear to your life, and how crucial that is in your journey. The dictionary describes a friend as a person whom one knows and with whom one has a bond of mutual affection. So a lot of us have friends. A lot of us have friends that we met in elementary school or even in college or even yesterday. And that relationship that you have with that so-called friend is crucial in your journey with Christ. It can either be positive or it can either be negative. I know when I was growing up, my mom used to ask me if I jumped off a bridge, would my friends jump off too? And I think I used to always say that, yeah, my friends would jump off that bridge. Or as I got older, I'd be like, no, why would my friends jump off that bridge? But I think now when I'm walking on my journey with Christ, I think a friend should not even let me jump off the bridge. That's a real friend. A real friend shouldn't let you jump off a bridge, no matter what the circumstances is. A real friend wouldn't let you do that. And like I said, I feel like your circle can influence you positively or negatively. I know that I have a lot of friends, and I know I have a lot of friends that I've met in elementary school, and also a lot of friends that I've just met recently. But I think over time, me and you, we have to realize the impact that our friends have. And I think a big part of that is knowing who your friends are in and out, being around them 24/7, seeing the type of things that they do. And you can't we're not judges. Like we aren't judges. So we're not supposed to judge anybody, We have one true judge and that's God. So don't go out there trying to judge your friends, trying to judge what they do, none of that. Like for me, for example, I have a lot of friends that are dear to me that aren't on the same walk, but that's okay. I don't need them to be on the same journey that I'm on. But what makes them so valuable and what makes my friends so important in my life is that they support me. They support me in whatever I do. When I told them, when they found out that I was doing this, they didn't judge me. They supported me. They asked me how can they help. They gave me ideas. They even told me what I need to do for this, about my mic, my audio situation, and that's what I think is a true friend. I think a true friend doesn't have to necessarily have to align with the same values as you, but they have to support you, They have to support what you're doing, I can do my best to try and draw them near to God, but if at the end of the day, if they don't want to do that, that's okay. Because as long as I know that they're going to support me and not judge me and always be by my side, that's the best friend that I can have. And I think another big part that I used to struggle with when I was younger is I felt the need that around when I was around certain people, around certain quote unquote friends, that I had to change myself, or they needed to change to be in order for them to be around me, and that's not the case. A true friend, you shouldn't have to change how you act or change what you do to be around them. They should accept you for who you are. And if you're surrounding yourself with people that can't accept you for who you are, then they aren't really your friends. Especially on this journey. On this journey, you're going to give up a lot of things. You're going to give up a lot of things that you used to do. And if your friends can't accept that, they're not really your friends. If they want you to be a certain way, the way that doesn't align with being a Christian, that's not okay. They're not your friends. I also wrote down that God is the ultimate friend. You can always count on him. When it feels like nobody understands you and it feels like nobody's got your back and you feel like you have no friends, God's always going to be there. God's that shoulder that you can cry on day in and day out. Sometimes when I was down in Alabama and I didn't have friends that I could call on, friends that were there for me, I relied on God and he was always there for me. I felt like a lot of my friends didn't understand what I was going through. A lot of my so-called friends judged me for what I was doing, and God didn't judge me. God understood me mentally and physically and what I was going through. And I feel like a lot of people that are probably watching this video need that too. They need to understand that God's always going to understand what you're going through day in and day out. Another thing that I wrote down is that you don't need a million friends. I know back when I was in elementary school growing up, I had a lot of friends, a lot of people that were athletes. We all hung around. A lot of people that I played baseball with growing up. When I got into middle school, I used to hang around, but also hung around with other people. And then as time went on and I got older, my circle started getting smaller. And when I got to high school, I knew a lot of people, but I didn't call a lot of people my friends. And even when now, like in college, I don't necessarily have a lot of quote unquote friends. I could probably count on my fingers the amount of friends that I got. And I think that's a big part. I think once you start getting that circle too big and you thinking you need all these friends and stuff like that, you stop realizing who's real and who's not. You know what I'm saying? And another big thing for me is most of my so-called friends, I don't really consider them my friends. I consider them my brothers. These people I've known for 10 years plus. These people got my back, and I got their back. I can call them, and they're always gonna be there. And I think that's a big part of, especially on this journey. I feel like if I were to ever want to give up or ever want to stop this, I feel like the people that are gonna call me are my friends slash brothers. They gonna have my back, and I'm always have theirs. But like I said, everybody's different though. Some people might feel the need that they need to have a lot of friends, and I mean, I'm not saying that's really necessarily a bad thing. I mean, you're going to do what you want to do at the end of the day. I just think for me personally on my journey, I don't really need a lot of friends. I don't need to associate myself with a lot of people. And that's not saying that you don't need to still respect the people that you knew or grew up with. I think in my life, there's a lot of people that I was super close with in high school, middle school, and elementary school that I just don't talk to. We just distanced ourselves. They ended up living their life. I ended up living mine. I still, when I see them in person, I'll still catch up with them, talk to them time to time, but I'm not going to go out of my way to talk to them. They're not going to go out of their way to talk to me. And I don't think that's disrespectful in any way. If they ever were to call me and said that they needed something, I'm gonna always answer that call. I don't keep no ties with nobody, no hard feelings, no bad feelings with anybody. There's a lot of people in my past that me and them had a falling out, and they texted me as I got older and wanted to squash it. I squashed it because I mean life's short. There's no time to be squashing stuff with people from like 4 years ago. Especially when you're on this journey. On this journey, a big thing about this journey is you got to be able to forgive, even when there are people in your life that you shouldn't, that don't deserve it. You still should forgive them, because at the end of the day, we didn't deserve to be forgiven, and God still sent His Son down to die for us. So, the last thing that I put is, remember that God puts certain people in your life for reasons, and these reasons can consist of to guide slash help you, for you to help them, for you to learn, or He allows the devil to attack you. So I want to start off with the first reason. I put to guide slash help you. God's going to put certain people in your life that's going to guide you and help you, whether that could be a pastor, whether that can be just a random person, whether that can be your friends. These people are in your life to guide you and help you on your journey. They're specifically meant for that. They're going to always be there. They're always going to help you with verses. They're always going to give you that good advice. They help you keep going. That's what their purpose is in your life. There's also going to be some people that you meet in your life that you need to help them. Some people might not want to act, they might not ask for help, but you probably get this feeling in your chest that they need help, and you might ask them, hey, do you need anything? And they might break down and cry, or you just ask for you just to listen to what they got to say. And that's their purpose, is for you to help them. you know and then the third thing is for you to learn. There's going to be certain people that are put in your life that may not specifically know you, or you may not specifically have a connection with, but you can watch from the distance and learn from them, learn from their actions, learn from what they're doing. And that's their purpose, for you to learn, or they might be specifically in your life, tailored to you, to learn, to get that advice from, to watch them make a mistake or watch them grow. And you'd be like, hey, I want to do that, or hey, I shouldn't do that. And that's their purpose in life. And the last thing and the most important thing is He allows the devil to attack you. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. God, God is the strongest person being on this earth. God can allow whatever He wants to happen. If He wants the sun to shine today, He's gonna let the sun shine today. If He wants it to rain tomorrow, He's gonna let it rain tomorrow. What I meant by He allows the devil to attack you, He's gonna put certain people in your life that are gonna negatively impact you and make you want to give up, make you want to stop what you're doing, make you want to change for the worse, not the better. And the whole purpose of that is so that you can realize that it's okay, and that the devil's gonna attack you, but at the end of the day, you're not gonna get out of that situation without God. You know what I'm saying? And He just wants to test you. At the end of the day, it's all about a test. He's gonna allow the devil to attack you to see if you're strong enough and see if you're willing enough to be on this journey. There's been a lot of people that have been in my life that have negatively impacted me, that changed me for the worse, and I didn't get back up and keep going. I shriveled and went the other way. And now that I'm sitting here doing this journey, I feel like I'm at that point now that if a negative person comes to my life, I'll be able to tell. And if they do try to attack me, I'll be able to get down and pick myself back up. I'm not gonna let somebody sit down and beat me down because I'm stronger than that. God's planted the seed in me, and I'm stronger than that, you know. And I have certain people in my life that I can call on, and even if I can't call on them, I can always call on God, and I know that now. And you gotta know that too, you know. When it feels like life's beating you down, when it feels like nobody's got your back, God's always got your back. That's why it's so important to know who's in your circle and how crucial your circle is. So at the end of the day, you always got to remember how crucial your circle is and how they can impact you negatively or positively. Thank you.